brought to you almost live from the Dude in the Basement studios. Why? Because that's where the good stuff is. It's Sips, Suds, and Smokes with your smoking host, the good old boys. And now it's sippin' time.
Hey, it's sippin' time again. Thank you for coming and listening to this Sips episode where everything good in life is worth discussing. As always, we are the best thing on at 2 a.m. or 4 a.m. or pretty much n a.m. at this point. You're all still quarantined in your house. You'll listen to anything, so.
How many months is this quarantine going to go on?
Well, we're recording this now. It'll probably get released, 19 months from now. I figure we'll still be there then.
Probably.
Like you said, my boys are self-isolating anyway, just as a matter of normal everyday life. They go in their room, close the door, and talk to no one. So, they say the young people aren't getting sick. There's a reason. They just don't talk to anybody.
How many weeks till we start talking to like baseballs and sock puppets?
Leave Wilson alone. Okay. Wilson is on mic number 5. Leave him alone. He has very insightful comments. Well, this is Made Man Bob, and joining me today are Made Man Brent.
Always a pleasure. I'm glad that we're self-isolating, that we've sent Maury and Harmeet to another place.
Say that again. Just say it again. Hold on. Let me grab a glass. Okay. Let me have a drink and say that again.
We've sent Maury and Harmeet to another place. Like they're not even here.
Oh, yeah. It's
how
lovely.
Relaxing is that?
Lord have mercy. Well, Brett and myself and Maury, if he was here.
Aren't you going to introduce our other host?
Yeah. Let's get to that. Justin.
Yes.
Is our other host.
Hello.
I'm so giddy with happiness that I don't have to deal with the other two grumpy guys.
The man of so many words.
I just don't know what the heck to do.
We got
myself.
One word out of him. Yes.
Yep. It's always with you. It's just, you just
That's
never,
double the amount of words you usually get out of you, Brett.
Yes.
So,
well,
be glad for what you get.
That's a fact.
Well, he is the wordiest guy that I know. So
we got you obviously have a wonderful economy with words. I look forward to your next syllable with great eagerness.
Yeah.
How many syllables did yes have?
One.
Depends on what part of the country you're from.
Alabama, it's 2.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it could be about 9 in Alabama. So
right.
So Brent and myself and Maury, if he was here, are with the Bourbon Mafia. The Bourbon Mafia is a nonprofit organization composed of bourbon enthusiasts and industry professionals. With representation in 8 states and 2 countries, our members combine a love of bourbon with a passion for charitable work. The group uses their love of our native spirit to raise money for local and national charities through rare bottle auctions and other themed events. You can check them out on Facebook at the Bourbon Mafia. Our show is also sponsored in part by Fine Spirits in Cooper City, Florida, home of the enigmatic machines that still don't work, but we keep getting promised every day they're going to work.
No.
Vegas won't even put a line on when these machines are going to get fixed anymore.
No.
I've heard too many times.
I understand he had to move from one store to the other, but it's been how long? And there's so many excuses, I swear. So eventually he'll have them back up and running, and then you'll be able to taste great wines and whiskeys by the glass.
Or he'll have 8 sippy cups with price tags on them.
Well, that's fine. Just wipe it down with a Clorox wipe before you drink it.
Yeah.
Okay. And we're also sponsored in part by the Fort Lauderdale Whiskey Society. To find out more about the society and all their events, you can visit them at ftlws.com. And our sip segments are all about wine, distilled spirits, tea, coffee, and pretty much anything that you can drink. And today's show, we're going to be discussing some, this is basically, we're doing a whole bunch of stuff. So this is
potpourri.
This is an odds and ends show. Right now, the millennials are going, "What's that?" And all the old guys are going, "Ah."
Yep.
So, for you young children, it was a TV show. It was called The Odd Couple. I think both guys in it are long since passed away, so just move on.
You could have had Sanford and Son on there too. That would have been a good one too.
Well, Sanford Son is always a good one.
Yeah.
Are you kidding? When I was a kid, there were two shows my father never missed, Sanford Son and Flip Wilson. My old man worshiped Flip Wilson.
I always wanted to grow up to be Lamont, but, it didn't work out.
Hey, Lyle Wagner just died, so, All right, so here's a list of the whiskeys we're going to be tasting today. So we have the Sexton Single Malt Irish Whiskey. We have Rabbit Hole Heigold Kentucky Straight Bourbon. From Whiskey Acres, we have the Whiskey Acres Bottled and Bond 2020 batch number 1. We have 8 and Sand Blended Bourbon Whiskey from the folks at MGP. We have the Elijah Craig Kentucky Straight Bourbon Barrel Proof batch number A120. And Cream of Kentucky Single Barrel number 11. So we're going to move on and have Brent tell us about our signature sounds and our sips ratings.
Thanks, Bob. We'll be tasting and discussing these whiskeys and rating them with these sips ratings plus our signature sounds. Here's how these ratings now. 1 sip. Give me a glass of water to wash out my mouth.
There's slightly drunken leprechaun.
Oh, God.
That's a leprechaun after about 45 minutes in the pub.
2 sips. Nice. But what else do you have?
That doesn't sound like a leprechaun at all.
Not at all.
Well, isn't that
It
nice?
sounds like a guy who's constipated.
He didn't pregame today.
No, he
Nope,
didn't.
no pre-gaming. 3
tell.
sips. Interesting. What was that again?
That's a little better.
Yes.
There you go.
It's coming back.
Yeah.
4 sips. Let's keep this secret to ourselves. Pour me another. See, it's going to fall right in place, 5 sips. Oh my. I was unaware anything could be this good.
Oh my goodness!
Sounds like the guy from the Lucky Charms commercial after a really bad car wreck and suffering some, terminal brain damage.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what happens.
Nothing to add. You nailed it.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, we're going to have Brent go ahead and tell us about our first whiskey.
Okay, this first whiskey is Sexton Single Malt Irish Whiskey, 80 proof, 40% ABV, not age stated. It's 4 years. And before I get into the description, I want to tell you about the bottle. The bottle's a 6-sided, short, black, beautiful looking thing. It's a gem of a bottle. I mean, when you see that on the shelf,
Look at it. Look at
You got a
carefully.
skeleton.
Look at the label, and you'll see some cool stuff on
yeah,
it.
you got a little skeleton,
Skull
and hat, skull and a hat there and stuff. And it's just a cool looking bottle. If you saw that on the shelf, you'd be like,
What you're supposed to drink for Halloween.
right. The cap has got the skull and hat on it. It's nice looking, So, okay, back to the whiskey. So the Sexton is a recent addition to the whiskey market, having first been debuted in the U.S. in 2018. While they don't disclose the name of the distillery, it is made from 100% malted barley and triple distilled in County Antrim. So it is not a great leap to guess it is likely produced at the Bushmill distillery. Yeah.
Well, if you go to County Antrim, that's pretty much the only distillery there.
So not a great leap.
Unless there's some little one in a garage somewhere, my guess is that's got to be it. So.
That's what they. So another clue is that the Sexton is aged in sherry butts. And recently, Bushmills also released a sherry cask single malt for their steamship series. So it's a good guess that this is from the same supplier.
Yeah, they're also distributed in the U.S. by Proximo. And Proximo also is the distributor for the guys who handle Bushmills. So
Yeah.
I'd say it's probably Bushmills, and I'd say it's probably from that Sherry Butt series they did. Maybe they had some extras or something. So, but here's the beautiful thing. That bottle from Bushmills, I want to say, is several $100. And Sexton isn't even close to that. So,
So make your own judgments.
yeah, if you got the money to spend, I'm just saying.
And this is a cooler looking bottle.
I want to say I think this is probably about a quarter to a third. So, and it's a cool bottle,
right?
So.
And it's a cool bottle. It's it is really neat. It is distinctive from every other bottle out there, really. So on the color on this, it doesn't look like Irish whiskey to me. It's got a little bit darker color than most Irish whiskeys that I'm used to seeing. It's maybe close to the same, but it's a 80s penny color. On the nose, I get some nuts, graham crackers, orange peel, a little bit of like dried straw, like you're sitting in and
sitting in the barn. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. On the palate, I get raisins, apricots, cocoa, toffee, a bit of a mint, some white pepper. Beautiful, creamy mouthfeel to this. This is just coat your whole mouth. It's very pleasing, great texture, everything, and it's nice, beautiful medium finish. When you think of an Irish whiskey, this is going to be something that people are going to be talking about. Let me add this Irish whiskey to my my repertoire. Justin?
Well, I have to say, I like big sherry butts, and I cannot lie. This spirit was pretty cool. I got like malt on the nose, nuts, marzipan, some apple, then followed by raisins and sherry. This is a lot more flavor than I'm used to in Irish whiskey, which are usually triple distilled or more. And the palate really came through on the nose, what the nose promised. And the finish was medium long. And I really think that this tastes a lot different than Bushmills, which admittedly I probably haven't had in the last 10 years, but it had a lot more like wood influence on that. This is just a lot sweeter, but a lot more depth than I'm used to in Irish whiskey.
And we'll be back. Hey, and we're back, and we are still talking about the Sexton single malt Irish whiskey. So Justin was just elaborating on some of his thoughts on it. This one I first saw back in, I think it was 2018 at Whiskey Fest in Chicago when I was up there with good old boy Mike. And, again, you see the bottle, it's very different. So, hey, let's go check it out. Hadn't heard of it before. It's brand new. And I've actually been trying to get a bottle of this for the show since then. So we finally were able to get a hold of the right people to send it to us, because both of us drank it then and we were like, wow, this is how much? This is really, really interesting. Yeah, it's just, it's a really, really nice Irish whiskey. I mean, the color on it is lovely. It's got on the nose, I'm getting the malt, but I'm getting some nuts on there, like almonds, a little bit of marzipan. Get some spice and like a dark chocolate, almost like a Dutch process kind of cocoa nose to it, a little bit dry, and on the palate, really lovely. The sherry really comes out on this. We always talk about it. It's a delicate balance when you are wine finishing a whiskey as to whether it tastes more like whiskey or it tastes more like wine, and getting the right split is hard. You want to add to it, not cover it up. You want to just get enough of the sherry in there that it fills in maybe some of the voids. It just
yeah.
It's like salt on it when you're cooking. It's not supposed to taste salty. It's supposed to just amp up all the flavors. And that's a tricky thing to do, but they did it very well on this one. I get dried apricots, like dried fruit note. Again, I get a little bit of the cocoa on the palate, and just on the very back palate is when I get that slight bit of, I don't know if it's mint or spearmint.
It's a little bit of mint. Yeah, it's a little mint there on the back palate.
Just a really, really lovely whiskey, especially, given the fact that I think it's significantly less expensive than the one we think it probably came from. But we're going to be rating the Sexton single malt Irish whiskey 4 sips.
That's classified.
So we're going to move on to our next whiskey, and we're going to have Justin tell us about this one.
So this one is Rabbit Hole Heigold Kentucky Straight Bourbon. It's 95 proof or 47.5% alcohol by volume, and it's non-chill filtered, so they don't take out the good little charry bits. Late last year, after their acquisition by drinks giant Pernod Ricard, Rabbit Hole decided to rename their core expressions. Their straight bourbon was rebranded as Cave Hill, their straight rye as Boxer Grail, and their PX Sherry finished bourbon as Derringer. At that time, they also added Heigold, an all-new addition to their core line. This new expression was named after Christian Heigold, a German immigrant who moved to Louisville in 1850. He was a stonecutter and was well known in Louisville for decorating his home with American patriotic stone carvings, including a bust of President James Buchanan.
Well, who doesn't have a bust of James Buchanan on their house? I mean,
Only barbarians don't.
I have one on every corner right next to the gargoyle.
I don't. I don't know what I don't, but I'm going to get one now.
Yeah,
communist.
I know that. I don't know why I didn't have one.
Hopefully they're easier to find than toilet paper these days.
That's what he should do. He should decorate it with, stone things of toilet paper.
Honoring his new country. Heigold is a high rye bourbon whiskey with a mash bill of 70% corn, 25% malted rye, and 5% malted barley. The entry proof of this new whiskey is a low 110 proof, and it is aged for nearly 4 years in number 3 charred oak barrels. So, obviously the proof went down a little bit on this one. So the color is pretty dark. I got a PX Sherry on the nose, and I got like a wheat, vanilla, butterscotch, and oak on the nose, which is not typical bourbon profile, but not very atypical either. On the palate, I got green raisins, vanilla, and oak. And the finish was remarkable because this is one of the longer bourbon finishes I've had for a 4-year-old spirit. And I thought it was pretty good. What'd you think, Brent?
Trying to figure out how he got PX out of it when it doesn't have any. There's no PX sherry cask in it.
Some things.
It's a mystery.
It is a mystery.
You guys are dumber than a box of hair.
Well, maybe. Yeah.
What'd you think, Brad?
Okay, yeah. So, on the nose, I had cherries, some leather, some pepper, vanilla. A nice nose to this, and then on the palate, those cherries really follow through. Then you get hit with the rye and the cloves, a little bit of leather. Just a beautiful mouthfeel. The first thing you'd think right off the bat is it's not 4 years old. You think it's been aged a little bit longer than that. And I always wonder when they have these, when they have like the number 3 charred oak, is like when they do these, are they putting it in a number, a number 2, a number 3, a number 4 charred oak, and testing them. I always kind of wonder, like, okay, well, what did they do before this to try this, and what made them decide to do the number 3, and what would the other ones taste like as well, But random things that go through my mind about that all the time.
Honestly, it's darker than I would expect for being just I think just under 4 years,
Yeah.
and it does not taste. It tastes far beyond its age. I will absolutely grant you that.
That it does, Yeah, and the finish. This is lots of pepper and cherries on the finish. It's just I just get pepper and cherries, and it's a nice finish, nice long finish.
Yeah.
I enjoy it.
Yeah, it drinks well beyond its years. I honestly think this is one of the best things I've had come out of Rabbit Hole so far.
Yeah.
Well, in this blend, I think they probably put some 4-year spirit and they put some older spirit in there too, because there's no limit to how old it could be.
Yeah, I mean, that's
it just can't be
possible.
younger than 4 years.
Yeah, but they don't have a lot of old.
Yeah, that's the thing. They don't have. It's not like they have a library where they can go pull something older out, and drop it in.
Is this their own juice?
I think this might be the last of their contract distilled.
Okay.
So the distillery itself has not. I don't think it's been online long enough to make this. I think this is sort of the tail end of what they had contract distilled. So, but still, nonetheless, it's. Yeah, I on the nose, I get molasses and brown sugar. got a very sweet nose. You get a lot of oak and cinnamon, and almost like a toffee sort of burnt caramel. And on the palate, what Brent said, it's dark cherries and brown sugar. I got a little bit of ginger spice, sort of in the center and the roof of my mouth, and just a slight bit of oak on it. But again, it's I think this is one of the best things they've done, and it drinks far beyond its age. So good for them. They seem to be hitting their stride with this one. So
I think this is their best expression.
Yeah, so far.
I agree. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, we're going to rate this one 3 sips.
Interesting.
So now we're going to move on to our next whiskey, which is from the folks at Whiskey Acres. Whiskey Acres is a craft distillery which is located on the Walter Farm in DeKalb, Illinois. The Walter Farm is owned by father and son team Jim and Jamie Walter, who, along with their partner Nick Nagel, founded the distillery back in 2013. They are a true estate distillery. They virtually grow all of their own corn and wheat and rye. It's either grown on their farm or within 2 miles of their farm. They've been farming there since the Walter family's been there since the 30s, and I think the Nagel family's been there way back since as far as was it the 1860s, I believe. If you've listened to some of our past episodes, we did their full product line back, I want to say probably a year and a half ago. Some very interesting stuff. These were the guys, if you remember, they had one, it was made using Oaxacan green corn.
Yes, they did all the different corn varieties.
And that was unusual. That one, I talked to Nick. I said, man, I don't know if it's a pain to grow. I don't know what your yield is, because, various corns yield more or less alcohol, so, you end up using a lot more product with a lot less alcohol. But I said, honestly, I really like to see where that one goes, leaving it in the barrel for another, 3 or 4 years, because it showed a lot of promise. It was very, very interesting, as I recall. And the kernels they look like emeralds, little glowing.
Really, right.
They were very cool.
It was very small. They were really neat looking.
Well, this is their bottled and bond product, which is this is the 2020 batch number 1. So this is their first release of a bottled and bond whiskey. I believe the corn was harvested the grain was harvested in 2014. It's 100 proof. It's aged 4 quote plus years, so a little bit over 4 years. I get a lot of corn note on this. It's very corn forward. And it's almost, I can smell that rye because I can smell that sort of putty that I always get whenever there's rye.
Exactly.
Little bit of sweetness on the nose, on the palate. Again, very corn forward. I get some cocoa on it, almost like a cocoa sort of dark chocolate on the back palate. You get a lot of cereal notes in it. It's almost like cream of wheat.
Yeah,
not as creamy, but that same stewed porridge sort of grain note to it. Very interesting. This is, I believe, if I got it correctly, this is 75% corn, 15% wheat, and 10% malted barley. So, what did you guys think?
Well, on the nose, this really reminded me of working in the fields up in Minnesota when we were baling straw. Because I got that corn, like the corn is sitting in the fields.
Was wondering, Brent used to be Paul Bunyan, so.
Yeah, well, the corn is growing in the fields, and you can smell the corn, and you're baling hay, you're baling straw, and you just get that, and you get that little bit of vanilla to it. It just kind of brought me back home, where I guess, this is from Illinois, and it just kind of brought me back up there to that area, and you really get it just in the nose itself.
Yeah.
On the palate, get an oil feel to the mouth, but the flavor, everything on the flavor is right on the tip of the tongue. And then on the back top of the roof of the mouth.
Yeah.
Is where everything comes
Yeah.
from in the flavor.
Yeah,
I got all those-
absolutely. Yeah.
and I got all those same kind of notes, the corn, and definitely get the cocoa, a little bit of vanilla, and the cereal notes. Yeah, those cereal notes are easy to pick up. It's just, very recognizable in it. And it's just what you get there on the farm. You really can see that this really is, you can picture yourself right next to the farm as you're distilling this.
Yeah. Well, it's again, I really kind of have a soft spot for the guys who are farmer distillers because, I mean, really that's where bourbon came from. Guys were, on the frontier who didn't have access to actual hard cash. That's what they would do is they would convert their excess corn into whiskey and use that to trade and barter with. So, when you see, a farmer who's actually doing it, I find that interesting. Whenever it's, it's, sort of ground to glass sort of thing. It's very interesting. We did, what were the other guys we did? The guys with the cherry farm. Oh, Traverse City.
Yeah.
And they're not growing corn, but it's on a cherry farm. And they had some interesting ones, and they had a cherry liqueur that was absolutely stunning. And, I have a great appreciation for the guys who are out there, putting their hands in the dirt and actually growing it.
You're seeing a lot of the bigger distilleries starting to grow some of their own products.
Buffalo Trace,
next to it. Yeah. Next to it as well.
What do you think, Justin?
I think that if I had to describe this spirit in one word, it would be authentic.
Oh, and that's he's done talking.
Yep. God, could you keep it down?
How many syllables was that?
3. Man, that's up. He's usually about 2.
I tripled my normal.
You went from
gosh,
yes to authentic.
Yeah, well.
Okay, give us more.
But you
Justin.
could
Okay, give us
tell
one
this
more.
isn't, some white lab coat flavor pack nonsense. This is real oats, real barley,
Oats?
corn. Well, it tasted like oats. They actually put it in there. I don't know.
Corn, wheat, and barley.
But I got like a definite general cereal vibe.
That's what I'm
just
saying.
like
Yeah,
one
it's
cereal
like
grain.
eating cream of
Right,
wheat.
right.
I mean,
Yeah, right.
it's like a morning porridge.
Yeah.
So again, like everything we had from them before, it's well made. Solid products. Really dig what those guys are doing up there. So we're gonna give this one 3 sips. Or we were. Let me re-hit the button. There you go. So, all right, we're going to move on to our next whiskey. And, from small farm to huge, giant corporation, we're going to have Brent tell us about it.
Okay. Our next one is 8 and Sand blended bourbon whiskey. It's an 88 proof, 44% alcohol by volume. The newest MGP release is 8 and Sand blended bourbon whiskey. It is blended whiskey with no additives or colors, just quality blended bourbon whiskey. In railroad terms, the phrase 8 and Sand means traveling at maximum speed, throttle setting 8, while pouring sand on the rails for traction. I guess a good railroad term, so.
No, there's a reason. Keep going.
Yeah. A portion of the, while pouring sand on the rails for traction, a portion of the proceeds from 8 and Sand blended bourbon whiskey supports Great American Railroad museums and historic preservation. So this is, in the bottle, this is a nice dark color. I mean, this is literally the darkest one we got today in the bottle. On the nose, I got a lot of honey and cereal notes. It was just, get a little bit of vanilla. Yeah, a little bit of caramel with that. It's nice. On the palate, the first thing I thought of when I was tasting it was Honey Nut Cheerios.
Oh, yeah.
That's the first thing I got. Then I got some cherries, some nuts, some vanilla. This is just, it's very, very nice, but it's a super soft mouthfeel. There's nothing, you don't have those rye spices coming at you or anything. You don't have, it's just a nice soft, just like coating your mouth just with like softness. And that's what I enjoyed about this. I don't know what they blended it with, so that it's a whiskey and not a blended bourbon whiskey, but
Yeah, I don't know if it's 4-year bourbon and 6-year bourbon or 8-year bourbon or whatever. It's,
right.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's all bourbon. It's just a blended bourbon. But
yeah. as dark as it is in the bottle, I thought it was going to be hitting me with like a punch, like, oh, this one's just going to come at you and just knock you down. And it was not like that at all. So, Justin?
I think this spirit's pretty smooth. And I agree, from the color, you'd think it would be harsh, but it's not. On the nose, I got dried fruits, some cereal, cinnamon. On the palate, butterscotch, vanilla, then a little oak, but not too complex spirit. It's pretty simple. You could probably drink it straight or use it as a mixer.
Oh yeah, throw it on a rock, throw it on a nice big ice cube,
Yep.
Yeah,
or in an old fashioned.
Just a nice sipper, This is just a nice sit by the fire, mellow it out with even ice cube, because it already tastes a little bit mellowed out. Like it's
from
like
the
it's
air,
been, yeah, and it's only 88 proof. So,
well, let me tell you, this is MGP put this out, and this is basically a bargain. I believe the retail price on it is about $24.
Oh,
so
right? How are you going to go wrong with that?
Yeah,
it's a solid quality whiskey. Everything that you guys said. I mean, what more can I add? We're going to give it 3 sips.
Interesting.
Hey, and we're back, and we just finished talking about one of the newer ones from our friends at MGP, the 8 and Sand. Gave that 3 sips. Solid pour, especially for the money. I believe the retail on that's $24.95. So
great, and plus what you said, part of that money goes to a railroad museum.
Yeah,
I mean,
and if you don't like choo-choos, I won't let you in my house. I'm sorry. Yeah, you're not even allowed in. Well, let's move on to our next whiskey, and we're going to have Justin tell us about that one.
So we're going to talk about Elijah Craig Kentucky Straight Bourbon Barrel Proof Batch A120. It's 136.6 proof, or 68.3% alcohol by volume. It will literally kill anything in your digestive tract, which is these days really good. Each batch of Elijah Craig Barrel Proof is uncut, small batch of 12-year-old bourbon, bottled straight from the barrel. The variance in proof from batch to batch presents a unique opportunity to explore the impact of the angel share, which is what disappears when you're aging whiskey from the barrel, and the resulting proof in a small batch of barrels. The first letter of each batch number indicates which of that year's releases the bottle was a part of, starting with A, while the second digit is a number that determines the month of the year that the bottle was released. The third and fourth digits indicate the year. So, the batch we have today is the first release for 2020. I found the color was dark, as one would expect from a high-proof 12-year-old bourbon. The nose was pretty subtle. This is a sleeper. If you didn't know it was that strong, you might get a little more intoxicated than you planned on. On the palate,
please.
On the palate, I got wood malt, vanilla, and amazing oak. And I found it was really smooth despite all those notes. And the finish was moderately long. I've probably had 5 or 6 of these different batches. And this is probably my second or third favorite out of the 6. Pretty good. What do you think, Brent?
Delicious. So I'm going to go with more of a color than dark.
Yeah.
I swear.
You weren't even born with the sense God gave the common dog.
But it is like a reddish brown color, which is a beautiful, beautiful color to this. But on the nose, you're right. It's kind of, it sneaks up on you thinking that you're going to get something as high proof as what this is, but you get some vanilla, some leather, some oak, some citrus, and then on your palate, bam, mouth bomb. That's the best way to describe it. Mouth bomb. You get the cherries, pepper, clove, vanilla. It just coats your entire mouth, and it's like you're drinking a cherry cola with a pepper tingly coating. all over your mouth, and the finish just doesn't want to stop.
I think he's reliving a date from his childhood.
He's getting a little too excited. I'm glad we're practicing social distancing. Thought I felt something on my leg there for a minute.
You did.
If you can reach that far, sir, you are in the wrong type of media.
Yeah, that's right.
We need to get you an agent. You're gonna be a star.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but yeah, this is one of a beautiful expression. Now this one has a lot more cherries than a lot of the other ones that we've had, but and I got one or two other expressions at home, and going to be glad to add this one to it when it comes out here when I can get it, because this is nice.
what more can you say? I mean, it's what Justin said is it sneaks up on you on the nose. If you bury your nose down in the Glencairn,
well, yeah, you got.
It's not even so much the alcohol, but if you really get in there and smell it, if you just waft it under your nose, he's dead right. It just goes right by. If you really get in there, you can smell that sinister, and it's not so much the ethanol; it's just you can smell that dark. And on the nose, it's just absolutely lovely. Oh, it's just dried old wood. Yeah, it's like, yeah, but in a good way, not overpowering, not too much, not, when you get a really over oaked, over old bourbon that is just, this is right up to that point, but just pulling right back at the right time. It's absolutely lovely on the palate. Yeah, this is a knock you right in the teeth kind of whiskey. It's a little bit drying on the palate, from the tannins, because it is pretty big. It's pretty big on the wood, but there's toffee in there.
Oh yeah, you get those vanillas and the caramels with it and stuff.
Sort of like a Heath bar crunch, like a slightly burned toffee, a little bit of cocoa, dark cocoa mixed in there. There's a little bit of leather that I get on the back palate, and it's just completely mouth coating. It surrounds your entire mouth. You taste it everywhere. You taste it in the roof of the mouth, in the back of the roof of your mouth. You taste it in your lips and your gums. It's a lovely whiskey. I mean, it's really, really well done. Add
a drop of water to it, the nose just pops. Oh man, does it pop!
Let's give that a shot.
You add a drop of water and the nose just
look at
you using Harmeet's tools. We'd be proud of you.
Don't tell him.
I won't tell him. Nobody tell Harmeet that Brent added water to something.
It took some of the wood tannin down on the nose too. Now it's more brown sugar and caramel and toffee.
Whoa. Yeah, that really.
It took some of that, that little bit of tannin and the oak. Yeah, on the nose.
It made it better.
Yeah. Let's give it a taste. Hold on, with the water.
So it takes quite a bit of water to water down something that's like 136 proof. So
yeah, so a little bit isn't going to hurt it.
Yeah. If you want to put an ice cube in this, go for it, people.
Yeah.
Be all right.
Yeah, just a drop of water that even got better.
Yeah.
So this one's definitely. This one's definitely a winner. So we're going to be rating the Elijah Craig Kentucky Straight Bourbon Barrel Proof Batch Number A120 4 sips.
That's classified.
All right, so that's going to lead us to our last whiskey. And that one is from our good friend Jim Rutledge over at Cream of Kentucky. The Cream of Kentucky brand traces its roots back to the 1880s when it was owned by I. Traeger & Company of Cincinnati, Ohio. The brand was acquired during Prohibition by the long since gone Shinley Distillers, who was one of the big guys back in the day, who reintroduced the brand in 1934. Cream of Kentucky grew to become one of the leading bourbon brands in the 1930s and the 1940s. It was one of the many victims of the decline in the popularity of bourbon during the 60s and 70s when all these hippies started drinking clear liquor. That sounded right. That didn't sound bitter, did it? Yeah.
But you wonder. Makes you wonder though. Is another one of these evolution is coming where bourbon's going to drop off again or something.
Hopefully, I'll be long dead by then. So.
Yeah, I think I will too.
Everything's a cycle.
Yeah. Well, the brand ceased production of its trademark, and the trademark was abandoned. Enter Jim Rutledge, former master distiller at Four Roses, who pretty much single-handedly resurrected that brand and handed it off to Brent Elliott, who's doing stellar things with it as well. We had reviewed their initial release of Creamy Kentucky. It was an 11.5-year-old expression on a previous episode. But what we have here today, that was their batch number 1. What we have here today is a Creamy Kentucky single barrel, number 11. It's 102 proof, 51% ABV. It is 12.3 years old. They're the only guys I know who use decimals. It's like star date. So let's give this one a shot here. On the nose, just a slight bit of oak on it, but I get some brown sugar. I get some like dark caramel, almost toffee. Very, very, very mellow, very laid back kind of nose on this. And on the palate, it's got a very creamy mouthfeel to it. Yeah, it's got a nice coat to it. A little bit of pepper on it, a little bit of vanilla, some old worn leather, a little bit sweet toward the mid palate, almost a little bit of demerara sugar, brown sugar kind of note to it. Damn good barrel. What'd you guys think?
Okay. Whatever you do, add a drop of water because this nose is just going to, when I first had it on the nose, it was just soft and subtle. Again, I added a drop of water. Bam, this leather and this spice just pops out on it. It just comes out on it. Again, I thought this one, especially after just doing the Elijah Craig and this one being, dropping down, 30 some proof, 34 proof.
Yeah.
That we're almost doing it an injustice having it after the Elijah Craig.
It actually drinks hotter than it is.
It does drink hotter than it is. It does.
You'd swear this was 120-ish,
And it's so smooth with it being that age, that you just, but you got just a smooth, creamy mouthfeel. You got the vanilla, the pepper, the oak tannins, the caramel, the finish. I wish the finish was longer. That's my only downside of this. I wish the finish was longer. So, I have, and again, tasting this after the Elijah Craig may have done it in an injustice in a way, but it's just a beautiful.
Yeah, it's the high proof. So
yeah, it's just a beautiful bourbon.
Well, it's a study in contrast, is what it is. I mean, both of these are right about 12 years old. Both of these, one is barrel proof. I'm assuming they took this down to 102, but it's possibly. I don't think it's barrel proof. I think they would have noted that.
Right. And the color?
Yeah.
Dark.
Yeah.
Just dark.
Yeah. And dark. Considering they probably, I'm sure they took it down from whatever this barrel was. I don't know what I don't know what the proof was, but I mean, look at it next to that Elijah Craig. They're both, like dark mahogany. I mean, there's very little difference in the color variation, but as far as flavor profile goes, the first one is much more oak heavy, much more oak forward, a lot more tannin. This one is the exact polar opposite. This one is like complete lack of that. So you would think that, one was older and one was maybe a little bit younger, but I mean, that's the magic of barrels, folks. That's the really cool part of it.
That is it. And I'm not sure where these barrels were sourced from. But he did an excellent job picking them.
Jim was kind enough to send it to me, but he didn't tell me where he's getting them from.
That's okay. We don't need to know where he got them from,
Yeah, when he says, "Hey, would you like one?" I go, "Yes, sir, thank you."
Yes, exactly.
It's for him to know and for us to speculate.
Yes.
Besides, if he told you, all the mystery in life would be gone.
Yeah.
I mean, let's sit here and speculate. This is a fabulous. It's a single barrel Fireball. So yeah.
There's no Fireball in this one.
Yeah, it's a lovely whiskey. Where's it from? Mongolia. So
Kentucky. Cream of Kentucky.
So what do you think, Justin?
Well, I think this definitely not Fireball.
Yeah,
I liked
you
it a
got
lot.
that.
Dark copper color. On the nose, I got rose petals, vanilla, and toffee. Kind of atypical notes. When I put a little bit of water in it, the nose kind of faded off. So I'm glad I nosed it both ways. On the palate, I got a primary note of vanilla. I got some malt, a little bit of cinnamon. Not Fireball cinnamon, but just a touch of cinnamon. And I got like a birch wood kind of flavor and consistency to it, and a little bit of prunes on the back palate.
Prunes?
Prunes.
What are you, my grandfather?
I don't know. I haven't had the pleasure to meet the gentleman. And the finish was long and luxurious.
Justin is the most regular on the show.
Thank God for that. Jewish people like to be regular. Spent a lot of effort on that. So I think this is really, really good. This is like the second spirit I'm aware of that Jim Rutledge has put out. I know he put out an 11.3 year a year or two ago, and now he's put out this 12.3-year-old single barrel. Obviously, this gentleman knows what he's doing, and I enjoy this, and I'm eager to see what he's going to come out with next.
Oh, yes. So, whenever you come out with a new one, please, you have the address, please. Forward more at any time. We're more than happy to drink it for you.
That stuff he put out at that other place, that little distillery.
Yeah, that little hole in the wall. Yeah,
a little Four Roses place or something, I think the guy knows what he's doing.
Yeah, I think he might have a clue.
He's got a little bit of an idea.
A little experience in the game, just a touch.
Yeah. Well, we're going to be rating the Cream of Kentucky single barrel number 11, 4 sips.
That's classified.
So it was an odd couple mixing, but
an excellent mixing. Overall, it was just an excellent mixing.
I mean, there wasn't a bad one here, guys. So
no, there wasn't.
Pretty good show, and without Harm,
we didn't have Harm and Maury. We have our meat and Maury here. I made it even better.
I feel somewhat relaxed. I don't know why. Well, that's all the time we have to today. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and you can catch all of our episodes where you found this one, as well as on terrestrial and satellite radio, and online at iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, CBS Radio, radio.com, Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Podbean, TuneIn. I've got about 4 more lines of them. Pretty much any place on earth you can listen to a podcast. The easiest way to find this show on your phone is to ask Alexa, Siri, Google, or whoever the woman is that talks back to you when you yell at your phone to play podcast Sip, Suds, and Smokes. We love your feedback. You can reach us online at info@sipsudsmokes.com. Our daily tasting notes fly out on Twitter every day at Sip, Suds, Smoke, and our Facebook page is always buzzing with lots of news and information. You'll also be able to interact with the thousands of other fans on those social media platforms. And you can also check us out on Instagram at Sip, Suds, Smokes or at Made Man Bob. Do us a favor, and take the time to rate this episode. If you're listening to us online, it's a big help to us, and we get to see your feedback as well. I want to thank our co-host for joining us today. Thank you, Brent.
Well, it's a terrible day to be in the basement. All my glasses are empty. I don't know why that is.
Well, thank God we've got more bottles. Thank you, Justin.
I'm glad they let me out of isolation for this. It's a really great day.
Quiet, numbskulls. I'm broadcasting.
Well, for Sip, Suds, and Smokes, this is Made Man Bob, and we thank you for joining us. And remember, life is too short to drink bad whiskey. And fortunately today,
there was no bad whiskey.
We didn't have to do it at all.
Right.
Sometimes we get lucky.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes we have to drink that bad Scotch stuff.
The public has no idea what we do for them. And some of the ones we have had to consume. Be quiet, King of Pete.
This has been a One Tan Hand production of Sips, Suds, and Smokes, a program devoted to the appreciation of some of the finer slices of life. From the Dude in the Basement Studios, your hosts, the Good Old Boys, will see y'all next time.